made it to rivalry week. You've got to enunciate and coordinate, too. Will any of the favorites get tripped up on their way to the college football playoff this upcoming weekend? Let's look back, though, first. Vilma, what caught your eye this week?
Oh, caught my eye is that we're going to finally see an undefeated playoff champion. You got Alabama, you got Clemson, you got Notre Dame. 3 of them are going to make it. One of them is going to win, and they're going to be undefeated. Jim, what do you got?
Whew. Much to the dismay of my good friends back in Seattle, I'm getting on a Jonathan Vilma train for Washington State Cougars.
What I'm talking about.
Okay, but it's a big if. If Washington State can beat University of Washington.
They will.
And if they can beat Utah. We're talking about the 10th and the 16th ranked defenses in the country. Then they should not only be in the top 6, they should be in the college football playoff, Jonathan.
I love
Heather,
it. I love it.
I see that look.
I love it.
You guys stay over there in left field with Washington State, right? Because Notre Dame, while all those other contenders were looking wishy-washy in wins, Notre Dame was the only top 10 team to play a ranked opponent, and they owned it. Their defense looked so good against Syracuse in Yankee Stadium, and by doing that, they closed the gap with Alabama and Clemson. Time to start talking about Notre Dame as elite this
Wow. Hey, you know what? I'll tell you what, after what we saw from Ohio State, what we've seen from that offense all season long, a lot of people might think we have a shootout in store for us in Columbus. Bo, Woody, relax. It's going to go under. Championship time. Who's in starts right now.
Welcome to Championship Drive. Who's in? Presented by Goodyear.
Look back at some of the top performances from yesterday. Vilma, Wazoo put up half 100 in the first half.
I love it. Gardner Minshew and that Washington offense rolling. Okay, Arizona, not a great defense, not a great team. It didn't matter. They lit them up, 55 points in the first half, 69 for the game.
Coach, what about Notre Dame? They played great defense.
You know what? Going against a really good offense in Syracuse, they were just methodical. They played outstanding defense. They were effective on offense. Heather, I'm not sure I agree with you that we're talking elite, but they are darn good.
West Virginia tried to be elite, Heather. They lost to T-Boone Pickens.
They did, and this is a big dagger for the Big 12. Now the playoff hopes squarely on one-loss Oklahoma shoulders, but West Virginia, with a win in Morgantown, can still get in the Big 12 championship. That's the last thing they need is a 2-loss
Yeah,
conference.
you're right. Maybe that says something about the Big 12 championship. How about Ohio State? Defensively, they could not stop Anthony McFarland, the other Anthony McFarland, and Maryland, but Haskins did just enough, got him into overtime, and they got the win. They got the defensive stop they needed on this play, so the Buckeyes remain alive for the college football playoff. It's like they have 9 lives. It's pretty amazing. Heather Dinich alongside Jonathan Vilma, Jim Moore. I'm Chris Cottle. Let's talk about the Buckeyes then, because they just seem to find ways to win. Now they've got Michigan, everything in front of them. If they beat Michigan and they go to the Big Ten championship game and they win that, they got to be in the playoff, right?
Why?
Because they're Big Ten champs with 1 loss, and they just got to win against Michigan.
So we're going to forget the whole season and what we've been talking about since TCU. We've mentioned how poor the Ohio State defense has been and how many big plays they've given up and how many rush yards they've given up. And we're going to say that's a
we talked about how poor other teams' defenses have been, too. We talked about how poor Oklahoma's defense has been. We talked about Washington State not playing anybody.
No, I'm going to take that. Washington State is playing good defense. They're playing much better defense than Oklahoma. They're playing much better defense than Ohio State. Ohio State yesterday on defense, and I hate to say this because Greg Schiano's a great coach, and they've got some great athletes.
Yeah, he was my coach.
They were completely discombobulated. They had nobody forcing the edges. They were giving up deep throws. They had a gazillion yards running.
It wasn't just defense, guys. They had 10 penalties for over 70 yards, 3 turnovers. They have more problems to fix than just their defense.
They can't
going
beat
into the Michigan game.
But if they beat Michigan,
they're not.
Point is.
But remember, it's the whole season, right? Are we supposed to take into account the whole season? And the whole season we've been saying that this defense has been bad,
no
just
question.
downright
But
atrocious.
not as bad as Oklahoma.
Which is fine, which is why we keep bringing up Washington State. This is exactly why we keep bringing up Washington State.
You keep bringing up
Washington
I'm getting with my guy.
Has an offense that's just as good as Ohio State's, has an offense that's just as good as Oklahoma's, and they have a defense that's playing better. I didn't say they're better. They are playing better. For whatever reason, they're playing better.
They are playing better.
No, I have to hear.
And you can make the argument that they're not playing the level of competition, but they are playing some great offensive football teams. They're playing Oregon. Arizona plays good offensive football. At times, USC does. Now, I know they lost that game. Listen, if Washington State beats a very good University of Washington team who's ranked 10th in scoring defense, and then they go to the Pac-12 championship game and beat Utah, who's ranked 16th in scoring defense. You can't keep a 12-1 Pac-12 championship out of the college football play.
You can, and they will. You can, and they will. The selection committee will keep them out because as of right now, when you look at their schedule, one ranked opponent, that was Utah. You want to beat them again? Okay, they're a 3-loss team that you beat in the Pac-12.
If they beat Washington, Washington's ranked.
Well, Washington's
Utah's ranked. If they beat Utah, Utah's ranked.
According to Selection Committee Chair Rob Mullins, because so many other teams lost that Washington got in when they had a bye.
You have to rank 25 teams.
Bias, man.
It has to be 25 ranked. So, hey, if Ohio State beats Michigan, that's better than any other win on Washington State's resume, is it not? So you talk about a full season. That's a part of the full season. The best win of either team would be Ohio State's win against Michigan.
Have you seen Michigan run the football? Yes.
Yeah,
they are dominant.
I've seen the defense.
Have you
dominant
seen Ohio
defense.
State stop?
No, but if they do on that day, then all of a sudden we're talking about totally different.
But you can't make it so clean sweeping where if they beat Michigan, that's it. They're in, and if they win the Big Ten title, they're in the playoff. What I'm saying is there is a way to beat Michigan. You can't just go out there and put on a poor performance like they just did against Maryland, against Michigan.
They won.
And somehow they win the game. Let's just assume somehow they win the game. And then we say, oh, they beat Michigan. Well, if they look poor beating Michigan, just like they've done the past 5-6 games, you can't take that over
Washington. You don't
Washington.
look poor beating Michigan. No, you have to play really well to beat Michigan.
There are many ways to look poor beating Michigan.
The only way they look poor if they beat Michigan is if Michigan plays like Michigan State and hands it over to Ohio State, and Ohio State.
But that's my point, Heather.
This caused a lot of Michigan fans to throw up a little in their mouths right now, saying that they're going to play like Michigan.
But Heather, that's exactly my point, though. That's my point. If Michigan gives them the game, turns the ball over, doesn't execute, incomplete passes, and Ohio State wins, you just can't say and look at the box score and say, oh, yeah, Ohio State beat Michigan, they're in. That's the whole point of the committee. You're supposed to watch these games.
I agree.
And you're going to watch the same thing that we're watching, and you're going to say, well, in this scenario, Ohio State, yeah, they won, but it didn't look good.
You can't tell me that Ohio State is more impressive offensively than Washington State.
No way.
You cannot tell me.
But
I can tell you, but I can tell you that Washington State is more impressive defensively than Ohio State.
Yes, but against who? Again, that's when you go back to strength of schedule.
Against the team they're playing on that day.
Well, then what about where does Oklahoma fit into this, too? Because they could be a one-loss champion, too, at the end of the day. And they're another team that has not played defense all year long, but they play great offense.
Here's how I evaluate defenses. Okay, there's numbers. Okay, but statistics can be skewed in any way you look at it.
Exactly.
Okay, points allowed is, to me, the most important thing. And then I watch their style. Are they violent? Do they hit? Do they tackle? There's a lot of lost art in people don't tackle anymore. Washington State tackles, Michigan tackles, Clemson tackles, Alabama tackles.
Yes.
Ohio State, they don't tackle.
But
you can't be a good defense if you don't tackle.
I agree with you. To your point, points allowed is very important. And
it's
Arizona is 96th in the country in points allowed.
I could
throw a couple of touchdowns, I think.
Yesterday.
Okay, so because we're obviously not getting you guys on the Wazoo bandwagon. Okay, that's fine.
You did a nice job of getting us on the band. Me, at least. I don't know how you did it.
Well, let me ask this. A neutral site, Washington State versus Ohio State. Who wins?
Neutral site? I'm going to go with Ohio State.
The fact that you have to think about it is exactly why Wazoo
What about
should be in the
Oklahoma, then?
conversation.
Where do they fit into this whole thing? Because they're going to be in a similar situation as Ohio State.
Oklahoma and Ohio State are the exact same team.
Exact same team.
Very good offense. Oklahoma has better offense and no defense. There's a reason why the Big 12 will not win a
But you would take Ohio State over Oklahoma because the win against Michigan is more impressive than any win.
I would take Ohio State over Oklahoma.
You would, okay.
My problem with Ohio State's defense is, like I said earlier, great respect for Greg Schiano. They look discombobulated. They look unorganized. They don't look like they know what to do defensively in the secondary, and that should not be happening at this point in the season. And they don't tackle well on the back end.
But if they rise up and they do tackle well against Michigan and they stop Donovan Peoples-Jones.
We're talking about one game as opposed to the embodiment of
the best game. It's the best game of all the games.
Wait, what two games?
Well, they would beat Northwestern in the Big Ten championship.
Are we really bringing up Northwestern?
Well, Northwestern, the Big Ten championship versus Utah in the Pac-12 championship. We're talking about
this. Exactly. That's why I didn't bring it up. I did not bring up Utah at all.
Let me tell you something.
That's exactly why I didn't
Don't discount Utah. That's why I say, I know Washington and I know Utah. And I'm just going to tell you, there is an East Coast bias against West Coast teams because there just is. I feel it in this room. Washington
You
plays
can't look
some
at me when you
defense,
feel in this room.
and if you beat Washington and then you go beat Utah in the Pac-12 championship game, to me, that says you are a really fine football team.
You are a really
deserve to
fine
be in the
football
type-
team. You're a top 16.
You know
You're
what?
in
You know what?
consideration
As
to go to the playoff.
You're elite. Like Notre Dame,
that
you're
you
elite.
cannot decide who to win between Washington State and Ohio State on a neutral site says it all. That tells me that they need to be in the conversation.
They're in the conversation.
No. You guys have completely excluded them. Heather, you are so awful Washington State right? It's ridiculous.
It's because at the end of the day, when you've got comparable teams, strength of schedule matters. They don't have one non-conference Power 5 opponent on their schedule. We're talking about Wyoming, Eastern Washington.
Didn't either.
I mean, it's not comparable. One ranked team.
At the end of the day, 4 teams get in. We'll be discussing a good 5, 6, 7, 8 teams, but only 4
I'll tell you this.
get in.
I
Trying to go to commercial break, Coach. Go ahead, one more.
Washington's going to beat Washington State in the Apple Cup.
That's going to happen?
Book it.
All right, book it, because Coach has said top 4 plays of the day from yesterday. You got to check out this catch from Rondale Moore. This kid's a freshman, Coach. We're going to see this kid for the next 3 years.
Well, I like him. I'll tell you what, they have some things going down there. Freshman looking like that.
That's pressing like the all right button on the controllers right there.
Spin move. Something. How about another one-handed catch? Before we got on the air, Coach, you were telling me you were just so amazed all day long on Saturday about these athletic catches. Here's Delvin Randall.
Just the artistic athleticism. I didn't have a chance to watch this many games when I was coaching, but every week you're seeing these beautiful athletes make these great catches.
He should be 1 or 2 just because of the dance. We didn't show together. I like the dance.
DeMarcus Lodge for Ole Miss.
Oh, look how easy it make that one.
Look at the awareness of his
graceful athletes.
Watch his feet.
Yep. That's
good in the NFL.
Facial awareness, isn't it?
And you got that's the quarterback's best friend. Just throw it on that back shoulder. I'll get it. And I'll get my feet in bounds. Danny Davis III. Even Wisconsin receivers are getting involved in the act. Look at that.
What are you trying to say about Wisconsin receivers?
I'm saying that they don't have to because they have a running back that runs for 300 yards in a game.
Nice strike out.
I tip my cap to you, Danny Davis.
Fred Biletnikov's back.
Great catch.
College ball.
Our bottom 4 is so good this week that this one right here didn't even... Tough day for Laura Rutledge yesterday.
She was
look
struggling.
At this. Here she... But look, she bounces right back.
Look out!
She does. She got up so fast.
And I guarantee you that, like, everybody on the sideline, are you okay, Laura? Are you okay, Laura? Helped her up. Our big contender question marks coming up, too. Top 4 teams got some question marks. We'll talk about that coming up next. Probably a little much for me to say we almost had all-state rankings mayhem halfway through this game in Tuscaloosa yesterday, but Alabama was tied 10-10 with the Citadel. Remember the Lords of Discipline based loosely on the Citadel?
No, I do not.
Anthony Pignetti, no?
I wasn't born yet. You're dating yourself.
Still a part of history,
Way too
my
old.
friend.
Ridiculous.
Alabama, though, in the second half, they really put it together, though, and put the Citadel behind them. Now they look forward to the Iron Bowl. You were talking as we were watching this game yesterday about how it's actually a good moment for Nick Saban to be 10-10 at the half. It gives him something to teach his team about, right?
Yeah, I think he probably never had a doubt that they weren't going to win the game. But he made a point after the game, and his demeanor was fantastic after the game about saying, hey, if you're not prepared to play, if you're not mentally prepared to play, anything can happen. And that's just a good lesson to remind these young minds that they have to be mentally prepared every single week, no matter who they play. So, in the end, yeah, it's going to help them as they move forward.
Notre Dame wins, Michigan wins, Clemson wins. But you look at this Notre Dame team, and you have to think to yourself, I mean, their schedule gets a little bit tougher, I think, as we progress through the season because some of the teams maybe that we thought weren't going to be so great, like a Syracuse, are all of a sudden having great years.
Yeah, well, Notre Dame has beaten 2 divisional champs and possibly a 3rd in Michigan. So I'm looking and saying, well, it's not a foregone conclusion if they happen to lose to USC that they're automatically knocked out of the playoff. I believe that they should be looked at just like any other one-loss team, especially going back to last year when Clemson lost to Syracuse early on, that, hey, well, let's take the whole body of work. Let's see who are the best 4 teams. They could still be one of the best 4 teams and make it to the playoffs.
Their win against Michigan would be really impressive, Heather, but they don't have that championship, and I know the committee really looks at that conference championship and holds it in high regard.
They do, but I agree with Velma, especially if the Big 12 champ has 2 losses. I would think they would certainly take a 1-loss Notre Dame over a 2-loss Big 12 champ. But consider right now, Notre Dame is #1 in strength of record, which means the average top 25 team would have just a 3% chance to go undefeated against their schedule. They should not lose against USC, guys, considering the way they played against UCLA.
What about eye test? Because it's a little more difficult with them because they don't play that conference schedule. They kind of play teams scattered around, but they continue to impress as you see them. What's their weakness? Do they have a weakness? Do they have an area where they can get beat?
You know, I would have said defense, although, I mean, they're a darn good defense, don't get me wrong, but I would say if a great team like them has a weakness, it's defense. But yesterday they were just outstanding on defense. Now, I know Syracuse starting quarterback was out, but I watched the way they play, not necessarily who they play, the way they tackle, the way they do things. So, yeah, if they have a weakness, I'm going to say it's their defense, but it's not a strong, it's not a bad.
Notre Dame's biggest problem yesterday was his pinstripe pants, guys. That was it.
I'm with you, though. I don't mind him because I get the Yankee Stadium thing, but I think if you're in a big game like that, you need to kind of go the traditional route, and nobody's more traditional than ND. I like Clemson's all purple, though. That worked out for him. But they're sort of the team we're not really talking that much about because they just keep winning, and they got Pitt coming up in the ACC Championship. Nothing against Coach Narduzzi and Pitt, probably the ACC Coach of the Year. They're playing well.
They play everybody tough.
They just seem to. Do they have a weakness, and do we know about it yet because the schedule hasn't been there to really give them big tests?
As far as the personnel for Clemson, they don't have a weakness. They have talent across the board, big, fast, strong, both sides of the ball. I get worried sometimes about the play calling of Vanderbilt, the defensive coordinator, because he knows how talented his guys are, and he knows he can take chances, and sometimes he will call unsound defensive plays, and if you catch them just right, you'll see a bust over the top of the defense. You'll see a big play that comes across the middle, and then you go back on film and say, well, how could that happen? And you start to understand what he's really doing as a defensive coordinator and what he's doing as a play call, because he trusts his secondary, he trusts his D-line so much that he'll call some off-the-wall stuff sometimes.
I worry a little bit about a freshman quarterback as the stage gets bigger. Now, I think this kid has been tremendous, and the growth he's shown is amazing. You watch him yesterday, he looked like a polished veteran, a guy ready to enter the NFL. I know that's a big statement, but I still worry a little bit about just being in that moment.
Or if he gets some pressure on him, right? If Alabama defensive line.
Or Michigan.
Michigan.
Yeah, you talk about, Alabama. If I was going to play Alabama, I think you said it, if I was, Michigan's a great matchup for Alabama because Michigan's going to come after him because Alabama's issue is their protection versus 5 men plus rushes.
To your point, maybe this stage here against South Carolina is the biggest stage for him to date.
Trevor Lawrence?
Yeah, Trevor Lawrence. You know what I'm saying? I mean,
no, but
he hasn't had
he
that.
seems unfazed.
He needs to have a big stage before he gets to the playoff. Though.
But he's not going to have that. He's not going to get that opportunity.
But we just said no disrespect to Pittsburgh, right? Pittsburgh is playing good football. They're going to test them.
Alabama, Trevor.
But there is no Alabama. There is no Alabama.
But it's not like going to Columbus, Michigan, and Ohio State. It's not like that. I'm saying that's what.
But all the other teams haven't faced that besides Notre Dame and Michigan, right? No one else has actually played a really, really tough opponent. Now, we can say LSU might have been a tough opponent, but they got goose. Their offense was horrible. After that, who else was out there?
I keep coming back to Michigan, and I know that they're in our top 4. I would push them higher because I look at the champ, Alabama, and I say what team could, in my opinion, threaten Alabama and Michigan the way they're playing because of the way they play defense and the way they attack.
You can get involved. Go to twitter.com/SportsCenter to vote in the Capital One fan vote on Monday and tell us what your thoughts are. All right, we still got a lot to get to here, including the always popular bottom 4. That's my dude right there, Northwestern.
He's a meathead just like you.
I was at the bottom 4 every week. Some shenanigans in the snow, too. Time for this week's bottom 4. We go to Folsom Field for number 4, Utah and CU. After this punt here by the Utes. Look at the field and the snow. Fans start throwing snowballs onto the field. They're right there by the student section there at Folsom.
But I think they hit their own team.
They got their own guys. The officials took.
There goes another one. Yeah, they keep hitting their own team.
You're going to ask the fans on both sides not to throw snowballs onto the field. That's dangerous for the players from both teams. Please, no snowballs down on the field. Thank you.
He said, please.
That's like inviting you to throw more snowballs.
He sounds like a concerned
It's like when your mom told you not to do something, you immediately did it.
That's Colorado season right there. Sliding down.
Your mom probably told you to dress for the occasion, too. Northwestern, they don't even care about it.
I swore you were there. It just feels like this is something you would do, Chris.
Here he comes, right?
He's coming, right? I know
there he is, Alex Spanos. There he is, extra medium shirt and all. He's got the hat on, though, to make sure he doesn't lose the heat through his head. Rutgers at home versus Penn State. The Philly special, not quite so special.
Only in Rutgers fashion could you botch that play. God.
I mean, this is
Wide open.
It's
That's so Rutgers.
it's art.
That's so Rutgers. Look at that.
And then finally, Colorado State and Utah State. Rams having a disappointing season, but can they salvage it with a huge upset against Utah State?
Touchdown.
Yes, they got it.
They win.
Expired.
Game over.
They can't believe it in Fort Collins. Uh-oh. That's a foot out of bounds.
I don't know.
I don't know if that's indisputable.
Legal touching the Rams. They can't believe it. Don't forget DirecTV More for your college football thing. How could you forget that it's rivalry week this week? Rivalry week. Any of these jump out at you here, Coach, as far as really you want to see?
Oh, we know. We already know which one.
Huskies are going into the Palouse and we're going to get a win. Yes, we are.
What about you, JV? Which one you want to see the most in terms of what might
I do want to see the Apple Cup the most.
You do? 2 Apple Cups on the set?
Listen, to me,
What do you have something going in Seattle?
Morgantown, Friday night, Oklahoma at West Virginia. That's a big game.
Oh, West Virginia.
I wonder if USC's got something for Notre Dame in Southern California, no?
No, Notre Dame will crush us.
Are you serious?
No credit. See you next week.